Doris Bither didn't choose the house on Braddock Drive because she liked it. It was what she could afford. A faded green structure with one floor, warped windows, and a roof that sagged over the porch like a tired eyelid. The landlord didn't ask many questions, which worked in her favor. She arrived with 3 sons, a daughter, and the weight of a history that most people never survive. The day they moved in, the heat clung to them like a second skin. August in Culver City was unforgiving, and the interior of the house felt worse. Heavy, somehow, like the air had mass, as if it was pressing down on the furniture, on the walls, on their chests. That first night, nothing happened. The second night, the hallway light began to flicker. Brian, the eldest at 16, replaced the bulb. It flickered again. The youngest, Marissa, complained of someone whispering her name. Doris told her it was a dream. The girl insisted she hadn't been asleep. By the end of the first week, the refrigerator door began to open on its own. Silverware clattered inside drawers. A heavy book fell from a shelf without anyone touching it. Cold drafts crept across the children's feet as they slept. Doris began to feel watched. In the bathroom mirror, she caught glimpses of something moving behind her, though no one was there. She started locking her bedroom door at night, but that didn't help. The first physical incident came 2 weeks in. She was getting ready for bed when she felt a force slam into her side. She flew against the wall, bruising her shoulder and hip. She screamed. Brian ran in and found her on the floor, shaking. Her robe was torn, her lip bleeding. She said something had grabbed her, but she couldn't see it. Just pressure, just hands. It didn't happen once. Over the next several days, she was assaulted repeatedly. Scratches appeared across her arms, her thighs, her back. She described 3 entities, 2 that held her down and 1 that attacked her. Always the same sequence, always at night. Her sons witnessed what they could never explain. Brian saw a shadow figure standing at the foot of his mother's bed. The shape didn't move, didn't speak. It vanished when he turned on the light. One of the younger boys watched a chair lift off the ground and drop inches from his feet. Marissa woke up screaming. Her sheets twisted tight around her legs like they'd been knotted. Doris tried to keep it quiet. She began drinking again, heavily. She'd quit 2 years earlier, but the fear pulled her back into it. She stopped cooking. The children began sleeping in the living room together, afraid to be alone. Neighbors noticed the noise. Thumps, crashes, muffled yelling. One woman from 2 houses down asked if everything was all right. Doris said yes. The woman nodded, but didn't look convinced. In desperation, Doris walked into a bookstore in Westwood with a section on the occult. She asked for help. The clerk didn't laugh. Instead, he gave her the number of 2 researchers from UCLA who had looked into similar reports. That's how Barry Taff and Carrie Gaynor entered the story. They arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, notebooks in hand, skeptical but curious. The moment they stepped into the house, they noticed the atmosphere, the way the lights hummed, the way the hallway never felt empty, even when it was. They interviewed Doris. She was exhausted. Her speech was scattered, but her details were sharp. The same time of night, the same sensations, always in her bedroom, always with witnesses nearby. They spoke with Brian and the other children. Their stories aligned, independently, without prompting. Gaynor asked Marissa to draw what she had seen. She drew a tall shape without a face, and next to it, 2 smaller ones with hands but no fingers. Taff brought in equipment the next evening, electromagnetic sensors, temperature gauges, Polaroid cameras. They focused on the bedroom. At 2:47 a.m., the temperature dropped 12 degrees in under 10 seconds. One camera snapped on its own. The photo came out blank, just fog. On their 3rd visit, something happened. Doris was sitting on the bed as they set up. Suddenly, she screamed. Her back arched, her arms flailed. A welt formed across her shoulder right before their eyes. One assistant turned away and vomited. Another took rapid photos. In two of them, a faint arc of light seemed to hover just above her body. They stayed until dawn. That night confirmed what Taff later called a violent environmental anomaly focused on a single subject. He didn't say haunting. He didn't say ghost. But he also didn't say fraud. Doris asked them if it would stop. They had no answer. She tried burning sage, playing Gregorian chants, leaving bowls of salt under the bed. Nothing changed. She stopped sleeping in the bedroom. The children begged her to move. And finally, she did. Moving didn't fix anything. Doris Bither left Braddock Drive and relocated to a smaller rental across town, a beige duplex behind a gas station. It had fewer windows and no yard, but at least it wasn't that house. Her children helped her pack, dragging boxes that seemed heavier than they should have been. She didn't speak much during the move. The new landlord handed over the keys without making eye contact. The first night was quiet, the second was not. At exactly 2:47 IEM, the same time as in the previous house, the bedroom door creaked open on its own. Doris had locked it. Brian checked it in the morning. It was still locked from the inside. Cold spots reappeared. Objects shifted place. The sound of soft breathing filled the hallway even when no one was there. The children noticed immediately. Brian muttered that it had followed them. Marissa wouldn't go near the bedroom. One night, Doris awoke to find all the kitchen chairs stacked on top of the table. She hadn't heard a sound. 2 weeks later, she was attacked again. This time, Brian saw it. He had been sleeping on the couch when he heard his mother scream. He ran into her room and saw her on the bed, flailing, her nightgown bunched at her waist. Her wrists were pinned by nothing. She was screaming, "They're here!" over and over. He couldn't move. After that night, Doris stopped pretending things would return to normal. She contacted Barry Taff and begged him to return. Taff and Gaynor arrived the next evening with minimal equipment. They hadn't expected the phenomena to continue. To their surprise, the energy in the new home felt identical to the last one. The instruments picked up erratic electromagnetic spikes. A camera placed on the dresser captured a soft pulse of light near Doris's feet, undeniably visible in the frame, but absent from the room in real time. When they played back the audio, they heard what sounded like heavy breathing layered under the static. Taff and Gaynor were more cautious this time. They no longer viewed Doris as merely a subject. They worried for her. They saw the toll on her health. She had lost weight. Her skin was gray. Her eyes looked vacant. Her hands trembled constantly. Brian, now more involved, kept a journal of the occurrences. He recorded every incident, every object that moved, every unexplained injury. His entries became erratic after a while, full of profanity, desperation, and drawings. Marissa developed a sleep disorder. She refused to be alone in any room. Her school called twice to report behavioral issues and signs of emotional trauma. Doris was unraveling. She attempted another ritual, this time using instructions from a book on psychic defense. It involved mirrors, salt circles, and candles. She performed it alone. That night, the house fell silent for 3 hours. And then everything surged at once. All the lights in the apartment turned on and off repeatedly. The smoke alarm went off, even though there was no fire. The children screamed from the living room. Doris ran to them, but the hallway felt like it stretched for miles. A framed photo exploded off the wall, cutting her cheek. The next morning, she called her sister in San Diego and asked if the children could stay with her for a while. They left the same day. Alone in the apartment, Doris felt vulnerable but calmer. The house was quieter without the children, but not silent. Footsteps echoed at night. A cupboard slammed open by itself every afternoon at 4:30. One morning, she found all the faucets in the apartment running full blast. Taff and Gaynor continued checking in, but the visits were less frequent. They had begun writing a formal report. They had enough evidence, photos, measurements, first-hand testimony, but no theory that made sense. Their colleagues at UCLA grew skeptical. One physicist accused them of staging the photos. A psychologist blamed mass hysteria, but neither had been inside the house. Doris became reclusive. She rarely left the apartment. She stopped working. Groceries were delivered by a neighbor who didn't ask questions. The landlord avoided her. One night she recorded herself sleeping. The tape revealed faint whispers, too low to decipher, and a strange dragging sound that lasted nearly 20 seconds. When she listened to the audio the next morning, her nose started to bleed. The phenomena began to lessen, slowly, not vanish, just reduce. No more full attacks, just knocking, cold air, that persistent feeling of being observed. Doris described it as the volume being turned down but never off. Weeks passed. Her children returned, hesitant but relieved. Marissa clung to her mother every night. Brian had become withdrawn, but protective. He didn't believe it was over. He started carrying a pocket knife, just in case. Taff and Gaynor documented the closing phase. In private, Taff admitted that the case haunted him more than any other. It wasn't just the events. It was the damage, the erosion of a family, the helplessness of it all. There was no ceremony, no final cleansing, no breakthrough. One day, Doris quietly moved again. No announcement, no goodbye. She didn't leave a forwarding address. Doris Bither's final move was not planned. She packed her things without telling anyone. No goodbye to neighbors, no warning to her landlord. She found a furnished apartment closer to downtown, paid 2 months in cash, and vanished from the life she had built in fear. Her children didn't understand at first. Brian tried calling the number she had used. It had been disconnected. Marissa cried for days. The younger boys seemed relieved, though they didn't say it out loud. In the new apartment, the activity was quieter, subtle, but not gone. Doris heard whispers behind the walls at night. The bathroom light would click on by itself. Sometimes she'd wake to find her shoes turned around, facing the wall. No more violent attacks. No bruises. Just that same pressure in the air, that unrelenting sensation of being watched. She got a job at a laundromat, worked quietly, came home, ate alone, slept little. The routine gave her a sense of control, though she never truly felt safe. She began keeping a journal, recording every sound, every shift in temperature, every strange occurrence. She kept it hidden inside the kitchen cabinet. One night, she woke up gasping, not from fear, but from the sensation of something pressing down on her chest. It didn't hurt. It didn't move, but it stayed there for nearly 2 minutes before releasing. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply sat up and wrote it down. Barry Taff called twice that year. She didn't answer. She wanted out. Out of the interviews, out of the case files, out of the label. She was tired of being the haunted woman. It felt like a second violation. Her pain reduced to lecture material. By 1976, Doris had become a ghost of herself. She rarely spoke to anyone. Some believed she had exaggerated everything. Others claimed she was dangerous. She didn't correct them. The less people believed her, the less they asked. Her children visited rarely. Brian moved to Arizona. Marissa stayed with relatives. The 2 younger boys were placed temporarily in the foster system. The family, already fragile, fractured completely. Years passed. Doris moved again. Then again. Each time to smaller places, each time a little further out. She left jobs suddenly, avoided attachments. Whenever she felt something brushing her shoulder or heard her name whispered in the middle of the night, she simply wrote it down. then ignored it. In 1982, a local reporter contacted her for a feature on the case. She agreed to a short interview. Her voice on tape was brittle, tired. "It never really stopped," she said. "You just learn to live around it." She showed him one photo, an old Polaroid taken during the UCLA investigation. The image showed her lying on the bed, a faint line of light arcing above her chest. "That's me," she said, "but it's not me anymore." The article ran in a small paranormal journal. It gained little attention. Doris was relieved. By 1990, her health had deteriorated. Years of poor diet, cigarettes, and insomnia took their toll. She looked much older than her age. Neighbors described her as polite but distant. Some thought she was mute. Others said she talked to herself. One neighbor, an elderly woman named Rosa, claimed Doris would sometimes leave her door open at night, like she was waiting for something, she said. In her final journal entry, Doris wrote, "I used to think the worst part was not being believed. Now I think the worst part is being forgotten." She died in 1995 in a public hospital in Los Angeles of respiratory failure. She was 58. There were no unexplained marks on her body, no recorded disturbances in the room. She passed quietly, alone. The hospital donated her belongings. The journal disappeared. Barry Taff, when told of her death, said nothing for a long moment. Then he nodded. "She deserved peace," he said. "I just hope she finally got it." To this day, the Doris Bither case remains one of the most documented and controversial paranormal cases in American history. Skeptics call it hysteria. Believers call it proof. But no one, not even the researchers who witnessed it, can explain it. The original photos remain archived. Some have been leaked online, images of arcs, blurs, forms that defy explanation. But even the clearest photos don't tell the full story. The haunting of Doris Bither wasn't just a haunting. It was a life undone by trauma, magnified by mystery, and consumed by silence. Whatever followed her didn't need to scream. It just needed to be there.